Welcome, my brother, to the Men's Sexual Mastery Podcast, Episode 1, debut. Here we go. So excited to have you here. So excited for this work and the brotherhood that's been arising out of it as we venture into the unknown, into deprogramming and reprogramming old ancestral patterns of the unconscious masculine into consciousness, as we awaken and align to deeper levels of orgasm, of bliss, of pleasure, tuning into the subtle and opening up new neural pathways of being beyond the limited programming of what we've received in pornography and fifth grade anatomy, right? Middle school anatomy. That is the default, and there's no shame that most of us received zero sexual education. But what an honor it is now for us to take up the reins, to do this work of reprogramming this ancestral conditioning that we've inherited, this unconsciousness, and to be bringing it into right alignment. To be learning to listen and tune in to the feminine within us and around us in our partnerships and with the earth, and most importantly within ourselves. When we talk about reaching internal states of orgasm, non-ejaculatory orgasms, this is the energy we're tapping into. If most of our conditioning has been this external seeking, this blowout ejaculatory high peak intensity experience, this very yang energy as it's understood in Chinese medicine and the Taoist practices, what we're doing in this work is stretching into the other end of the spectrum, the yin, the feminine, the relaxation into deeper levels of pleasure. And this work it's a whole world. It's a portal into a realm of healing that will transform your life from the inside out. No doubt about it. It's what has to happen. We have to get out of the loops of our minds, the neural pathways, the limited neural pathways of porn reenactment. Not that there's anything wrong with that, like primal sexual energy, like it's great. I fucking love that myself, but to be a full human, to be fully embodied as men and to reach these deeper levels of pleasure, we've got to have the full range. And this means going within, learning to reprogram our nervous systems. I say it time and time again, this is what's at the core of this work, is nervous system regulation. Because if you notice, when you have an ejaculation, it's a sympathetic nervous system response, right? It's a tightening of the pelvic floor. It's a building up of this energy, of all this pleasure, all this sexual energy. And we start to contract, and our pelvic floor squeezes, and then the energy shoots out, right? We ejaculate, we evacuate, we release the energy because we can't hold it, basically. And that feels really good. And there's a huge dopamine release, serotonin, oxytocin. It's this flood of chemicals. It feels great, of course. But when we can learn to deepen into holding that energy and going into the parasympathetic, into relaxing in the pelvic floor, even as this energy is building up and building up. And this is what we train in a lot of the men's sexual mastery training programs, are all these tools and techniques, ancient technologies in the Taoist and Tantric lineages, as well as a lot of, modern behavioral neuroscience and, a lot of this work with the pelvic floor, Kegels, reverse Kegels, a lot of this stuff, if you've reached this podcast, this channel, I'm sure you've been in deep dives. But as we integrate these technologies and we learn how to soften on our growth edges instead of, contract, it opens up new neural pathways. It opens up new ways of pleasure and subtle ways of pleasure at first. In the beginning, it's very subtle, but over time it starts to expand and expand and expand. And this is how we move towards eventually having these full body, non-ejaculatory orgasms that can last minutes. Yeah, I think some of my longest have been 2-3 minutes. I've heard of guys going 10-20 minutes, especially as, half an hour, especially as you get into the prostate work as well, prostate massage and stimulation of the prostate, which, again, this is just the internal end of the penis, really. Like if we have our dick and our cock on, our balls and dick on the outside, the prostate is just the inside of the anatomy of the dick. It doesn't mean that you're gay. It's a part of our anatomy too. And it's a part of our pleasure that is blocked and held by ancestral, myofascial tension that's inherited. So the work of releasing that tight ass energy and opening up into the prostate orgasms is also very connected to what we're talking about here. But these can lead to, orgasms that last, I've heard up to like half an hour. And in my own experience, 2-3 minutes of just waves and waves and waves of orgasm that are like, as you go into this work, you start to understand how women have orgasms and that we have that same capacity actually. And when we have that capacity and we can bring that to our partner and we enter sexual spaces without an objective, except to just explore how deep we can go into that energy, just like riding a bucking bronco, like how long can you stay on? How much can you expand into holding more and more of this energy? We become one with our partners and we're actually literally circulating the same energy, the same orgasm that she is in within our bodies. And of course, these principles, they don't just apply to the male and female bodies, though traditionally, the yin-yang poles are like it's clear in those instances, like how these principles work. But I have also, in my own work, in my own research, we work with gay men as well. And, there's a lot of, it's also cutting edge to be exploring like the polarities and how this can work out with same-sex couples. And I know it can with people I've worked with. So little asterisk there. This isn't just men and women. Although I'll be speaking in terms of, men and women or masculine and feminine. Just know that throughout anything I'm teaching, that these are just archetypes and poles. These are yin and yang. These are energies, submissive, dom, hot, cold, thinking, being, the head, the body, the heart. So I'm speaking in archetypes here. And at the end of the day, these are energetics. These are polarities that exist in nature and in our own felt experience. And at the end of the day, truly what all this work is leading to is inner union, because truly each and every one of us have a masculine and feminine essence, a yin and yang pole, whatever you want to call it. We all have brains and we have bodies, and finding the union of the two, of doing and being, of masculine and feminine, of, outward and inward. This is what's referred to as the middle path in Taoism. And this is the point of magic, where the two become one. And finding this inner union and this completion within ourselves is actually the starting point that attracts others who are on that same frequency. Like attracts like, right? So I just gave a whole lot right there, just sort of touching on a bunch of different principles and just a summary of some of the approaches in this work, and what we're going to be covering in this podcast, as we dive deeper. This is primarily going to be a solo cast with different guests that pop in, and this will continue to evolve, I'm sure, as something that's just being called forward. I want to just say one last thing, is just that I am here not as a guru, not as someone to be on a pedestal, but just as a fellow brother, sharing my tools, my maps, the things I've gathered over years of studying this, and investing so much time and energy and financially into this work. And my intention is to empower as many brothers as possible in this work to bring that alignment, so that each and every man can experience the massive shifts this can bring to his life and to his relationships. It has changed my life from the inside out, and it's changed so many of the brothers who I've already served, And now is the time. Never before has this information been available and, even safe or allowed, in a lot of previous times, whether it's religion or just the culture, a lot of this stuff has been suppressed for pretty much most generations, or it's either fallen into these extremes of like hedonism, and like Babylon, or, these legends of just, the energy just completely spiraling out into chaos. And you see this, right? Or it's repressed into like this hyper spiritual, rigidity, and denied and shoved down. And then you see it pop up in all these other shadow places. Like look at, the Catholic Church and priests who, shove down the sex, and look where sexual energy, and look where it shows up. Or you look at shamans, and all the sexual misconduct that exists there. The work is uniting the sacred and the sexual into one, and aligning this energy and being open about it. And that's what we do in our training programs. It's being observed and witnessed and held accountable to this powerful energy. Like sex is not good or evil. I mean, same thing with money, with power, with technology. None of these things are good or evil. They're just powerful energies. And it's about how we treat it. It's about our intentions and our internal alignment and how we're handling it. Let's say sex is like fire. Fire can cook a meal, or fire can burn the house down. So what we're learning to do is just bring consciousness, internal alignment, and coherence to ourselves, and to hold one another in accountability as we wander into these new frontiers of deepening in ecstasy and in bliss and in connection, so that we can continue to hold this energy. The more integrity we have, it's just like a skyscraper, right? Like the foundations of the building, the alignment of the building is what allows it to go higher and higher and higher. If you think of, I talk a lot about the masculine being like a bowl. And if the feminine, if sexual energy, let's say, or the feminine is like water, it shows the bowl where it's leaking. And as the bowl is patched up, as those leaks start to get addressed, and this is what the feminine, reflects back to us, like where we are leaking energy. But as we shore those things up, then the water starts to fill the bowl, and eventually is overflowing over the edges of the bowl. And that's when our bowls can start to expand even more to meet that overflow. And, the water just keeps raising up and overflowing, and the container keeps growing. And this is the sharpening of masculine and feminine uniting. They build and resonate on one another to expand into deeper levels of power, of sexual energy, of bliss. Yeah, this is what this energy, this most sacred sexual energy, is here to be used as the most powerful tool we could ever access in this human experience. So excited to be here, dropping in with all you brothers around this work. I thought one thing that I'd share in this introductory episode would just be a little bit about me, just for any of you who are just following along, who've never met me in person. My name's Ben, and the background that I have that's brought me into this work is it's a bit of a deep dive, and I'm sure I'll be sharing more throughout these podcasts. But suffice to say that I was raised in a very conservative religious upbringing, which in hindsight I'm really grateful for when we talk about alignment, right? Deep in the Christ energy. Sexuality was something that was very taboo. One of my earliest memories was hearing a joke about a condom, I think, or something sexual. And I didn't know what it meant at all, but I shared the joke with my sister because I thought it was cool, or I don't know what. And my parents heard about it, and they sat me down, and I could feel this tension of, and they were doing the best they could, of course, like any parent would. They just sat me down, but I remember feeling like I'd done something wrong. There was some shame around this, and all this stuff came up at a pretty young age. And I think a lot of it, even in that moment, I don't even remember what my parents said. I know they were just doing the best they could to explain to me what sex was, but also I know it was coming from a place of yeah, just trying to keep me safe from like burning my hand on the stove, right? But I remember there just being kind of like a fear and a contraction. That was my reaction to that experience, and that it was something bad. And then, it was just suppressed in me. And when I was 10 years old, I was exposed to pornography for the first time. And that was the beginning of the stories I began crafting around what sexuality was, just like so many of us, and like how it works and what women want, and how we move in these spaces. And I started, also I was very isolated already. I had a lot of self-worth issues, and I was very much a loner in school. And, because I was such an odd duck, like I was homeschooled at a young age as well. So I was like always the loner, always the reject. So that combined with porn and getting into building computers and technology and video games spiraled me into porn addiction at a really young age, combined with video gaming, and just I completely isolated myself and estranged myself from the world, even while going to school and these things, to the point where I would have panic attacks when I talked to women that I was interested in, and that followed me into my 20s. So I came from a really deep wounding, from a place that was the opposite of being a sex coach, which is what I am now, and the experiences I have now, which are the most beautiful, profound, things I can't even go into right now, but just suffice to say, my life is like the exact opposite of that now. Being able to receive and circulate and be vibrant in my sexual energy, and multi-orgasmic, and attracting and manifesting experiences that are beyond my wildest dreams, and not just in sex, but in all areas of my life. At the core of this work, I truly believe that our sexuality, this goes to the root of it all. And when we can learn to hold this energy with integrity, all simultaneously, like allowing it to exist and allowing it to be expressed, and allowing our desires to be met in a way that is in alignment, this is uniting the sacred and the sexual into one. And this is a space from which we can meet God and be connected to God. I've never been more connected to God in my whole life. And I know that word for some people may trigger you. You can call it the divine, source, creator. Even for me, my connection to Christ, to all these powerful energies, has never been stronger. And it's been one and the same with my journey of healing my sexual energy, of deepening in my bliss, of deepening in my pleasure and my alignment with all these energies within me and around me. So that's a little bit about me. And I just really appreciate you all for hopping in here and joining me as I launch this new extension of the podcast from the work I've already been doing. If you're interested in diving into some of this work, I have a full online program. There's a self-paced course you can take online. We do group trainings throughout the year. We do in-person events in tandem with the online trainings. So it's a hybrid. It's not just online. You have free access to events, and there's one event for every group training. So that's here in Austin. And I also do one-on-one coaching, helping brothers break through any blockages that may be standing in the way of that felt sense, that connection to coherence within yourself, to your own self-love and your own self-pleasure, and these things that are kind of at the foundations of this work. And also, coaching as you continue to deepen in that internal coherence and that internal love as you merge into the external love and attracting a partner, or if you're already in relationship, like coming into deeper and deeper pleasure and alignment and orgasm with your partner. If you're interested in any of that stuff, check out our website, menssexualmastery.com. and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Sending you all so much love today and on your healing journeys, and we will see you soon, brother. Much love.